considering it was her friend's funeral.
Yes. And I don't know, babe. I don't have any notes.
So
I would've grown all day. Hold up, somebody can't relate. Hold up, stay down with no faking. Go up, top down, I've been racing. Go up.
Hey, what's up, my beautiful kings and queens? My name is Shyla.
and this is your boy EK.
We are coming to you guys today with another royalty review for Lovecraft Country, episode 9.
Episode called Rewind 1921.
This episode was extremely good, guys. I didn't take any notes. I was really sad. It was a lot of things I didn't expect during this episode. It was just a bomb episode all around.
Yeah, so pretty much, the episode goes back and reviews the Tulsa massacre and where Montrose and George, everybody was on that night. So it was just a real kind of eye-opening episode. So we'll delve into that. But before we do that, go ahead and hit us with a like, hit us with a sub, and ring that notification bell for us before we get started. And
please like, comment, and subscribe.
all right. So the episode gets started off, and we already are back at Dee's house, and she's currently under the spell that Officer Lancaster put on her.
Yes.
Everybody is now pointing fingers and mad because she was just wandering the streets the whole episode, and nobody took real responsibility of Dee.
Right.
Now, even though she's not in their kids, they all were supposed to be watching over her, and she came to each of them individually with her problem, and they kind of dismissed them because they were all going on through their own shit.
Right.
So it gets to that. So they're trying to figure out how they can lift the curse. And Tick suggests, well, we can, give Titus's pages to Christina and maybe she'll help us in exchange for that.
Right.
And then at that point,
Leti makes a strange face and it lets you know that she already gave the pages to Christina and that they couldn't utilize that favor again.
Right.
Which Tick wasn't too mad about.
No, once he found out that she got it, she tried to get the invulnerability for him, but ended up getting it for herself.
Right.
Ultimately, because we know Christina at this point needs Tick to do her last spell and she's gonna need him. So she didn't want to grant him the invulnerability.
Right.
So so Ruby's like, well, Christina will do it for me because we have a special relationship. Bloody bloop, bloody bleep.
Right.
So Christina pulls up. Long story short, Christina cannot remove the curse. The Officer Lancaster sealed it with his spit, so that's how he sealed it with his own body. So only he can be the one who can remove it. But what she can do is reset it. And she says that she can reset it, but she's going to need the Book of Names to do so.
Right.
Because she's not really familiar with the spell.
Right. She needs the Book of Names in order to remove it from Dee's body completely. But it's a favor for a favor. She's not going to just do this favor because Ruby asked her to.
Right.
It's a catch to it.
Right. So she goes and visits. So she said she's going to do it, but she puts them on hold and goes and visits the Officer Lancaster, who supposedly had died last episode by way of the Dark Dog. He's dying in the closet.
Mm-hmm. They're trying to put him back together. They're chopping off a part that's constantly growing back.
Yeah, I didn't understand what they were doing.
Yeah.
They were like cutting off his body pieces, but their regeneration spell only regenerates you to how you were. So he was already bit and fucked up, so it was just rejuvenating him back to holes. And then they're like, we can't kidnap any more Negro bodies. So I guess his body, that wasn't even his body. When we said that he was wearing somebody's skin, he had a whole nother person's body under his body. His head and his arms were sewed on to a black person's body.
Wow.
That's what I derived, because he was like, they stole one. They're like, we can't kidnap any more Negroes for this cause,
Right. They're getting suspicious. So, but that makes sense because he was sewn from the collarbone up, and I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
But okay, that makes sense. Okay. So William walks in and basically he lets him know that, but Lancaster knows that William is Christina. Mm-hmm. So he's pleading and asking for help, and William was like, no, I watched William die 1,000 deaths. I'll watch your death once.
Right.
And I'll be satisfied with your death. So she watched him die.
Right. Didn't do anything, let the nigga die. So
after taking something out of his drawer, something of value, I don't know what it was, but it's something that she wanted.
Right. So then, it goes back to Montrose and Tick, and they're in the garage, and they're kind of like stressing over the situation. And at this point, before Christina left, she said that what they were gonna need was the closest closest member of the bloodline of Dee's bloodline's blood to make the spell work.
Right.
And Montrose, they were like, oh, well, it's gonna be Montrose, but Montrose was like, it's actually probably gonna be you, Tick. At this point, is the first time that Montrose really reveals to Tick that George is probably his father.
Right. Right.
So again, Tick is mad, understandably, because he's thinking back again, like, I endured all these beatings, I went through all these things, and kind of, let it slide that you were my dad, and I was wishing that he was my dad the whole time.
Right.
So, just a lot of emotion there.
Right.
So they're trying to figure out what's going on. Again, another thing Christina says before she leaves is to regulate Dee's temperature.
Get her fever under control.
Get it as close to normal as possible.
Yes.
The reason why I bring that up is because the dad and him are talking, and Leti walks in talking about the fever, and at that point Hippolyta comes back into the garage.
Where's she been at?
And I was gonna say she been living her best life. You know how it is when you stuck with your kids and you get an opportunity to be in space-time continuum and you don't gotta be stuck with your kids. You get missing it and you lie and say you on a God trip and shit, and niggas don't know where you at. So she was doing whatever she wanted to do, but when she came back, she was like, is she sick? She didn't know what was going on at all.
Right. She had been gone this entire time. Remind you, she's been gone for, I don't know how long exactly, but Bobo's funeral lasted 5 days.
Right. It's been at least 5 days for the funeral, and then at least one more day since then. Now, it just showed us Dee at the beginning of the episode, and her arm was all decrepit, but by the time it shows Hippolyta Dee, she's turning literally into a jigaboo.
Yes. Dee is turning into a jigaboo, which was really scary to me.
Yeah.
I thought that was really crazy. They did a good job of her makeup. They did a really good job.
So she's turning into that. Christina is able to pull off the reverse spell, which she warns them is only going to reverse the spell and it's going to run its course again. So this is not something that's taking the spell off. They still have to do other shit to get it popping. Right. So they do that and all these maggots come out of it. Her arm goes back to normal. She goes back to normal.
Wait, did we mention that Christina agreed to help Dee if Tick went back with her to Artem?
Yeah, that was the agreement. You just said that it wasn't for free, but you didn't say what it was not for free for.
Okay.
So Christina only agreed to help that if Tick came willingly back to Artem so that she could do during the eternal equinox, the autumnal equinox. And then after that, after Christina saves the day, Ruby leaves with her, and she just basically kind of chooses up and tells Leti, you probably should be leaving with me. Christina's done nothing but help. And at that point, we really realized that Ruby does care about her sister, but she does care about Christina too, and she doesn't care about Tick, basically, because she's just really kind of trying to look out for herself and her sister. Mm-hmm. So Hip pops up and she has a plan. Mm-hmm. She says that she's lived 200 years of Earth on a different Earth, Earth 504 or whatever, and she has all this knowledge and she has some future tech and she has a whole plan about what she's gonna do to be able to fix and help Dee. So she's like, we gotta go back to the past. And what's her whole plan?
So when Hippolyta comes back in, she's just packing up, putting Dee in the car, putting items in the car, and saying that she has to go back to where they put the key in the machine that leads them to the portal. And she explains that she was on this Earth 504 and how she has all this knowledge and that she could fix the machine. Even because Tick reminds her, remember you shot the machine. Right. Well, she lets him know that she's smart and she's able to fix it within 3 to 4 hours. And Dee only has 24 hours to live. So it's 3 to 4 hours to fix the machine plus the 6 hours to get to wherever place that is in Kentucky where the machine is.
Right. And then however long it takes while they're in the portal and then the time to come back. So she's like, I got this. We'll get it popping. It pans back to Christina and Ruby talking, and Christina admits to Ruby that she needs all Tick's blood. She's gonna need to kill him. She kind of admits to her, I did try to get Leti to spy, and I did have ulterior motives with you, but it's different. I had all this stuff meticulously planned out, except for the timing and you. So basically, she kind of, in so many words, kind of gave her feelings for Ruby back,
Right.
It goes back, and Mont is telling Leti about Tick's trip to the future. And he's kind of like blaming Leti for giving her the pages, for giving Christina the pages.
So now they're back in Kentucky. They have D, and they're in Aunt Hippolyta. Aunt Hippolyta is working on a machine. Leti and Montrose are trying to get D comfortable wherever they're laying her body to do whatever they need to do. They're up high while Aunt Hippolyta and Tick are down here, and they're talking. And as they're talking, Montrose just spills everything. He knows that she's pregnant. Lets her know it's a boy.
Right.
Lets her know that you giving those pages is probably a death sentence for my son. So he kind of has some ill will towards Leti because he doesn't want his son to die, of course.
Right. So they're having this conversation, and Hip and Tick are working on their own part of the machine, and Hip gets the machine working again. She jacks into her little glowy wrists from the I Am Hippolyta episode. Apparently, she gets to keep those glowy wrists moving forward.
Right.
And it's some kind of power because she hooked the machine up to him.
Right.
So she opens up the portal with her own willpower. She hooks it up to herself so that the warp time knows when to go. She basically controls the time warp.
She's the motherboard.
Right.
Is what she calls
it.
The motherboard.
So they jump back. From the second that they get back, Mont is walking around. Oh, he's all scared. He's paralyzed by fear. I would imagine that this was a very traumatic time for him. Not only was it the time when he was young and finding out that homosexuality is not allowed and it's being casted upon, but then it's also the day that his whole life changed. The Tulsa massacre occurred.
Right.
So he's familiar with this day, and he's really
reliving it.
Right. He's on his wits end, kind of reliving it, kind of just stuck by it.
Not to mention, right before they jump through the portal, a couple scenes back, he kills this hooch or whatever. What did George call it?
Moonshine.
It wasn't moonshine. He called it skid marks or death row.
Oh, he called it. It was called road rage.
Yeah, road rage.
Road rash or something.
Yeah, road rash. That was this drink he was drinking. Tick thought it was. He's like, is this gasoline? That's how strong it is. So he's already not in the right mind frame because he's drunk,
right?
Or at least a little tipsy.
Right. So he was drinking. So he was actually drinking, and he drank some more after Tick had took it from him because Tick wasn't actually really judging him right there, but he actually got more drunk. And when Tick realized that he was all traumatized and shit and drunk, Tick kind of denounced him out there and told him, he's happy. Once this is over, we're done. I'm not talking to you anymore. Basically, this and that.
Right. Letting him know that how angry he is at his father, which is understandable.
Right.
Which is understandable.
She pointed out that Leti was in the dress.
Yes. So when they arrive, they change clothes to blend in, and Leti has on the red dress that she burns up in the house, and that we've seen over and over when she's dreaming or when Tick is dreaming or whoever is dreaming. That's the same dress when she's burning up in the house. So I thought that was kind of strange.
Yeah.
I wonder what correlation that had, or maybe it was really true. But anyway, I guess we'll get to that.
But she was standing in the fire with the book of names at the end of the thing.
Right. That's why I said we'll get to that.
So it goes them walking through the town. There's a couple of different things that's happening that Mont remembers happening from that day. It goes to him, and they're across the street from his house, and they're trying to go to the house, kind of looking for the book of names. And his younger self is outside getting beat by his dad. When it showed this, it did this voice clip earlier. And it was like, go get a switch. I thought that it was Mont talking to Tick.
Me too.
Until it showed the clip, and it was really Mont's dad talking to him.
Yeah, me too. Even when he was getting beat, it took me a second to realize that wasn't Tick getting beat. It took me a minute to realize that was Montrose getting beat.
Yeah.
I thought it was Montrose beating Tick. I don't know why I thought that, but I did.
Yeah, so because they went back, yeah. So then it shows the relationship of Tick's mom and Montrose kind of budding. His mom runs outside to save Montrose from getting whooped, but his mom is going to prom with George. So it shows that she has feelings for both of these boys that live next door. And again, they were together the night of
the massacre.
So like he said earlier in the episode, when you survive something like that, it builds a tough bond.
An unbreakable bond.
So after seeing that traumatizing event and his younger self runs off, the older Mont wanders off too.
Right.
And that forces Tick and Leti to have to split up.
Right.
So Letty's gonna go to Tick's mom's crib to get the book, and Tick is gonna go follow Mont to stop him from doing whatever he's supposed to be doing, which he thinks at the time is going to tell Uncle George about the future.
Right. Right. Which he doesn't want anybody to alter. They've made this clear. They don't want to change anything because they don't want to alter the future. They don't want to.
Right. We've all heard about the butterfly effect. Everybody knows the domino effect. If you do something in the past, so they've already agreed to not go back fucking up the past because this is their direct timeline. It's not like how it was the last time they traveled.
Right. Exactly.
So, Leti is at the dad's house, and basically some shit. What happens to lead her over there?
So, it pans back to Leti, and she's walking down the street. Her and Tick are split up, and these group of boys drive up, and they say, "Hey, nigger boy," and they just start beating this black boy to the ground, and they pull a gun out on her, and she just takes off running. And when she takes off running, they are like on her ass, and I don't know if they were shooting at her.
Yeah, they won. They shot her while they were running, and she hit her, and she fell down, but she was invulnerable, so she didn't die. Okay. And then she got up and kind of like dipped off or whatever.
What happened was she was on the ground, and some people came out of the house.
Oh no, it was Montrose's daddy and Tick's grandpa. They came out of the house shooting and trying to help her. He came out and drew the gun.
She ran that far and was across the street?
Mm-hmm. She ran that far.
In their yard?
Yeah, because when they got they got her again down by the guns, and he came outside and shot at them, and they had to hide behind the car, but only 2 of them had followed. Because when they went back inside, they were like, well, what's going on outside? And she's like, there's a whole group of them at the end of the block. Right. She was already on the block. Right. All she had to do was run to the end of the block.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. I didn't know where she had ran to or who that was. I didn't understand it.
So basically, she's in here, and she knows that this whole family dies in this fire, but she can't give them that information. Right. So she's in there looking sassic and sorry. She feels really bad because she knows what's about to happen to them, but she can't. She knows that she's not going to die, and she knows that she can't do anything to actually save them.
Right. Right.
So then it goes back to Tick, and Mont is in the alleyway, and he's basically finds out that he's not there to warn Uncle George. He's there to save his old friend Thomas, which was his first boyfriend type shit. But he didn't want anybody to know, and they didn't want anybody. Nobody wanted anybody to know. Right. And that was the day that Montrose was telling him that he couldn't talk to him anymore, and that's when the white boys rolled up on him.
Yeah. So Montrose goes back to his younger self, meeting with his friend Thomas. And then he's telling him how they can't be friends, blah, blah, blah. And a mob rose up on them and traps them both ways. And they're holding hands because they're scared. And one of the white boys just shoots Thomas. Shoots him.
Right in his face.
Just kills him. And so Montrose wanted to save Thomas, but he doesn't.
But Tick talks him out of it, basically stating, you can't change the past, because what if that undoes me? Right. What if you fall in love with this guy and you end up,
right. Tick
not being with Mom.
Tick wants to be born, okay?
Right.
He wants to be born, and he wants his baby boy to be born. And he wants to be there for his son's birth.
Right.
His son's life. But anyway, that's another story. So then that happens.
So he basically stops him from doing that.
Which was a long ass scene. This scene fucking pissed me off because it was just dragging, but then it was a sad scene.
It was sad, and it was he wanted to, he had to live with that guilt his whole life. Once again, it was somebody who he cared for, right. And then he was casting him away because of society, and then on the time that he's casting him away, these dudes pull up and kill him right in front of his eyes and blow his brains onto his shirt and shit like that. So it was a traumatic experience.
Right.
So it pans back to Leti, and she's inside the house of Tick's grandmother, and she's looking for the book of names. She's rummaging through their shit.
She's rummaging through their shit.
Instead of helping fight off the people. And the grandmother, who's been wise to her since she showed up, she's been peeping her since she showed up.
Right, noticing her shoes. She had on shoes with a dress.
Which I was saying, I was like, she has tennis shoes on. I knew she was going to be doing some running, but it just looked weird when Montrose and Tick both had the suits on, and she came across the street, but she had tennis shoes on. I just thought that in my head, but I didn't think anything of it. But I did, was like, they have tennis shoes like that in that time?
Yeah. So she's rummaging through this shit, and the grandma walks in, and she just like, who are you? Basically, like, people like you aren't around here, because I could tell by your shoes. I could tell by the way you walk in. Right. Anyway, she notices that Leti is not from around here, and she's asking her, pressing her, what's going on? Do we die here? Let us know so we can defend ourselves.
She threatens to shoot her.
Oh, yes, that's right. Right between the forehead.
Yeah, she was like, I'll shoot you. Stop lying to me, or I'm going to shoot you right between your face.
Yes. But Leti can't provide too much info because she doesn't want to change the future.
Right. She doesn't want to change how things play out. So she does tell her the truth, though, that she is from the future and all this other thing. And she does end up telling her ultimately that she's going to die in the fire. But she tells her why, and that she's pregnant with her great-great-great-grandson, and that she really needs the book to help to stop all this calamity. And, you know, she's like, your story is already set. This is where it ends for you. So, sorry, you know, I'm sorry, but I really need your help. And that the honesty let her tell her where the stuff is.
Right, because she asked for the book at first, but then she's like, the only book I know about is the Bible book. So she like tried to play it off like, what book you talking about? I only know the Bible. But she go behind the wall and pulls out the book of names and gives it to Leti. And this is like where it got really emotional for me, because like when they were sitting there, she had to watch her die, and I thought that was really sad. She asked her to
pray with her.
Yes.
And because she says like, oh, I can't die, I'm protected by magic. So she's like, well, can you stay here and pray with me? And so she's like, yeah. So she stands there and she has to watch this lady like burn in real time.
Burn.
And she just burns to death right then and there and falls on the floor. And, you know, that's emotional. Again, seeing the great-great-grandmother, the great-great-grandmother of the man you love die in front of you in such a tragic and like horrifying way.
Unnecessarily.
For no reason.
Yeah.
So she's like there to bear witness to this. Meanwhile, goes back and goes to take a Montrose, and Montrose is talking about how this guy came and saved him, and he's been talking about this since the beginning of the episodes. Even we know, as much as Tick know, that somebody saved him from this time with a bat, a random dude swinging in and said, I got you, kid. And they're like, oh, well, where's this guy? He hasn't come yet. And come to find out, this guy is Tick. So this goes back to the shit that you be talking about how time travel is confusing, because now it's basically saying, just like how it did in Terminator, that no matter what, he was always going to travel back to this time and come and save him. Because even in Montrose's original life, it was Tick who came back and saved him. So in the timeline, it continuously recycles and repeats, you know, infinitely. Mm-hmm. So basically, that guy is Tick, long story short, and he comes over there cracking heads. He whoops everybody. He hits this girl with a bat. He whoops everybody's ass, saves the kids, and basically allows himself to live by saving his father and his uncle and his mother, you know, long story short.
God, yes, his mom, which we don't know what happened to her. Out of 9 episodes, we know his mom dies.
Hasn't shown her once.
It showed her once.
When
he was dancing with her.
Oh, but I'm saying like it hasn't showed her in a real in a real memory.
Right. It
hasn't showed like a real life.
Right. When he was a child before, but it doesn't show her, and it doesn't say what happened to her. You know, that's interesting. Like, how did she die? Because they're old, but they're not old. Tick is 30 in real life. You know what I mean?
What if she just cast one of those forget spells on niggas and she's just been living in the hills trying to chill?
We'll see.
What if she comes out in episode 10? Also, while this is all happening, it's doing this poem, which I would assume is called Fire, but that poem is really deep. And if anybody knows who did that poem, I'm gonna try to figure it out and maybe post it before I do the editing. But if you guys know who did the poem or could tell me, drop it down in the comments. #, do the name of the author. So then it goes to the last ending scene, the climatic scene of the end, where Hip is there. She can't keep the portal open. She's convulsing and like she's like having like a seizure basically.
Yeah, it's crazy. And she states that she can't hold it open long. Tick jumps out, says, "You gotta do it. It's for D." Leti and Montrose, or whatever he calls him, they aren't back yet. You can't. So at that point, she's trying to hold on. Her eyes go completely gray, and then she starts to like
float. She was like the Storm at first. I thought she was like Storm.
Yeah, and then she's like holding on, and
she gets.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Tell him. Go ahead.
I was talking about the Leti. About the Leti part, she's walking with the book.
Yeah. Go ahead, tell him.
Yeah, so it pans back to Leti, and she's walking really slow, and in this scene, the bombs are being dropped. She's walking down the street, and she has the book of names in her hand, and you can tell she's like very distraught, emotional, sad, because she's actually witnessing what happened to these people. That's horrible, and now she has to live with that when she goes back to the future, because she was there.
Right.
Just like Montrose.
And this is when she started getting really emotional. She was watching that part, and like they started playing that sad song after the poem, and it just was really graphic. Like if you're just thinking about like they're dropping bombs on unarmed people,
right,
who are just in their own neighborhood not doing shit, and they're dropping air bombs on him.
Right. You can hear children crying in the background, screaming. It's really, really like horrifying. It's horrible.
And so it's showing all that. Hip ends up getting the portal back open. Montrose is sitting there kind of like monologuing. He's like, again, traumatized, looking out over the city as this whole catastrophe is taking place.
Right.
And he's talking about the people that he knew that got murdered and stuff like that. And
which is a great scene. Go watch. It's very intimate.
Right.
It lets you know from his perspective what he saw and what he remembered and who he remembered.
Right. And what it meant to him.
Right.
That those people, lost their life on this day.
Unnecessarily.
So
which is really sad that the schools don't teach us
Yeah.
about the Tulsa massacre, which is fucked up that we don't know nothing about it or we're not taught anything about it.
Right.
But anyways, this is another story for another day.
Right. So then they jump through the portal and they make it out and Tick catches Auntie and everything is good for now. Everybody made it. They got the book. Now they still got to heal D up, but everybody made it out. Everybody's good to go, and that's how the episode ends. So
yes.
The next episode is the season finale, and I'm really excited about that.
I'm sad.
I know. I'm excited about it as the season finale, but I need somebody to confirm. So if you guys know anything about Misha Green, or if you guys know anything about the writers, see if you guys can help us confirm that season 2 is coming out, because they tried to do us like this with Underground, and I'm still salty about it. So I have like this anxiety.
Yes, and this is a great show. I saw online that this is the best show that we didn't know we needed, and that's very true. This is a show that it's something that we've never expected to watch.
Guess what? We finished our burn and discuss on time.
Oh, yay.
All right, so that pretty much wraps it up. Let us know your thoughts and comments on the show. Let us know if there's anything that we missed, anything that we thought that we saw that you need to correct us on. We love to talk about it. We always try to respond to everybody who comments and chop it up with you guys. You guys have some great insight. Shout out to you guys.
Let us know if you guys want us to do any reactions. Please drop them down below, and we'll definitely do those for you guys.
All right, you guys, stay royal, and thanks for coming to the channel. That one should be quick.
I know, I thought that too. It didn't feel long. Let's do the trailer real quick. Hold on.